So, Fallout 76 recently passed the 100-day mark. I was able to play on 99 of those 100 days, and shortly thereafter decided to cobble together my thoughts on the game in a hopefully somewhat coherent review. Though Fallout 76 got off to a rather inauspicious start in the media, with issues surrounding shipping, downloading, and the collector's edition itself, none of these things affected my gameplay, and I experienced mostly smooth sailing during the beta period as well as at launch. I play on the Xbox One, so while I've come across few gameplay issues in my time so far with Fallout 76, I understand that different platforms come with different challenges. Playing Fallout 76 is a lot like playing Fallout 4. There's a building mechanic, this time in the form of the camp, as well as at workshops scattered around the map. Generally, graphics are ported over from 4, but things like surfacing, shading, lighting, and other high-tech wizardry that I only sort of know a little about are often new. That means pipe pistols, protectrons, and perfectly preserved pies will look a bit better than in the previous game. And speaking of the previous game, I feel it's fair to mention that 76 is not a main game in the series, but rather a side game of sorts, along the lines of Fallout Shelter or even Fallout New Vegas. And as such, it's by its very nature not quite along the same lines as a main Fallout title. Oh sure, it's very much Fallout, as I found out the very first day of the beta. The atmosphere is there, the dark humor, even the songs on the radio all scream Fallout in the same way that the recent titles in the series did. But it's true that 76 differs from recent Fallouts in major ways, and one of the biggest differences is that there are no human NPCs. Bethesda meant for every human in this game to be a fellow player, and as such, the only traces of humanity in Appalachia, the name for the region of West Virginia within the game, are holotape recordings, terminal entries, notes, and bodies. That's not to say that there are no NPCs, they just take the form of bots and the occasional super mutant vendor. Interaction with these NPCs is light, so I understand why folks might be confused about their status as NPCs. Due to the fact that there are no human NPCs, coupled with the fact that what NPCs are present are few and far between with a few exceptions, the game world can feel a little empty. That there are at maximum 24 players per server at any time doesn't really help matters if you're feeling like the world is sparsely populated. Those like me who don't go looking for player interaction may see the 24 player limit as a good thing. There is story in Fallout 76, and the story is where you find it. Folks used to the main games in the series will find that this game doesn't hold your hand story-wise, forcing the player to go out and deliberately look for side stories. And that usually means doing a little more digging into terminals, reading notes, and listening to holotapes. The stories are definitely there, with some of them, like the Christmas Flood, spread throughout several areas and side quests. I've encountered my share of glitches, from immobile enemies that don't take or dish out damage to server crashes, but nothing I've experienced has been game-breaking. Frustrating at times, maybe, but nothing that made me want to put down the game for any extended period of time. Again, I understand that not everyone's experience with the game is going to be the same as mine, with things like system and connectivity issues varying widely throughout the world. The enjoyment you get from Fallout 76 largely depends on how well you can adapt to the fact that, as this isn't meant to be a main game in the series, it has a slightly different setup to it. Player versus player is a thing, with systems in place to prevent abuse. Survival is also something that's forced upon the player rather than it being an option in the settings. Add to that the sparsely populated world, and there's no question this game is not Fallout 5. It isn't perfect and may never be. Bethesda is making running changes based on feedback from fans, like the stash weight limit increase from 400 to 600 and more recently from 600 to 800. And with Bethesda just having laid out the roadmap for improvements and additions to the game for 2019, it stands that while 76 may be a slightly different, irradiated animal compared to what's come before, it's still very worthy of the name Fallout. I have enjoyed and will continue to enjoy the game, and I hope you do too.